you like city building games? Well, we have a game that will interest you. That's right, we're talking about Ubisoft's Anno 2205. For those who wonder what the game is, Anno 2205 is a futuristic city building game. There are other Anno titles out there, but 2205 is the latest title in the series, and for the record, it's the first one that we over at C&NOnline have played, so this review will focus solely on this game and not the previous entries. This is C&NOnline's Anno 2205 review. So for people wondering, Anno 2205 is only available to be played on the PC. When playing the game, you take up the role of a leader from a corporation that you make and have to compete against other corporations in developing future technology. The other corporations are all AI, as this is a single player game. The biggest feature that's been added to this game is you can colonize the moon. That's right, you're able to build massive cities on the moon. When you first start your game, you can create a new corporation. Don't worry though, you can have multiple corporations or saves on the same game. So first things first, you choose an awesome corporation name, then once you have, you get to select your corporation's logo from a selection of pre-made ones in game. After that, you then select your starting sector for the game. You'll be given 3 to choose from, each with different stats. For example, Walbrook Basin will have 17 mountain building sites, whereas Cape Ambar only has 14 and so on. So it's up to you to select which sector will benefit you in the game. There's no right or wrong answer by the way, and if you choose one, the others will be available later on for you to choose from, so it's not too big of a deal. Once you've selected your sector and had an earful from San Beaumont, you then choose your game's difficulty. Now you have 3 settings in the game: standard for the people that just want to relax and build their metropolis and have extra perks along the way to help, if you were to go bankrupt for example. Next is advanced for a more challenging game. This is for people that are used to city builder games, as you'll not get many perks as you would if you selected standard. Finally, there is Expert. Now this is for more experienced Anno and city building players, as you receive less credits from your employees and there is no bailout if you decide to accidentally go bankrupt. You will permanently lose your corporation.
When you have confirmed all of your settings, you have a beautiful cutscene that pans over your new sector, so you can see what your area looks like. The first thing to do is get your bearings. You simply move the mouse in the direction you want to go, and you start traversing through the map. Or if you want to quickly go somewhere, left click the area on the minimap and you will be taken there. In the bottom right you will find your minimap, and bottom left you will find your construction menu, which is filled with everything you need to start building your civilization. Not all of the items will be unlocked at first, as you will need to meet certain requirements for them to become available. We will cover this in more detail later. Under the construction menu you have the goods overview. This shows all the goods that your civilization is making and whether you are making enough for everyone in your civilization, or whether you are not meeting the requirements and need to make more. For example, the more people you have, you need to make sure you have enough organic food for them so that they can be happy and work to the best of their abilities. If you don't meet certain requirements, this can affect production and slow down the process of making and unlocking new things. Right at the bottom of the left hand side you will have your move tools, which allows you to move buildings without having to destroy them, which is very handy if you accidentally place something. You have the copy tool that allows you to select a building, and then the next lot of buildings that you place down will be the one that you have selected, saving you having to go back through the menus when you are building the same thing over and over. You'll have a demolish tool, which is used to get rid of buildings and things you don't need anymore, and as you advance through the game certain things will be replaced with the better building or requirements, meaning you'll have to make way for better stuff. Then the last little tool is the promotion button. When you have reached the requirements for living conditions you can promote them, making them more advanced. You will also find how many people are in your workforce and all the information connected to that, and the amount of energy you have and all the information to do with that and logistics. In the top right you have your corporation profile, so you can keep track of your corporation level, blueprints, which is a chart that shows you what you can build or what you need to do to build certain things, and the achievements in the game. Top left you have your credits, credit balance employees, and biopolymer. These are important stats that should be kept an eye on, because if you start losing money or spending more than you're making, you need to change that. If you don't have enough employees to do a requirement, it will tell you how many employees you need, etc. It's full of useful information that keeps expanding as you get more resources in the game.
Down the left hand side you'll see all the tasks which you can complete to advance in the game. Bear in mind these are all optional and do not have to be done, though when you complete them you get more resources and credits, so they're worth doing. The last thing is the strategy map. When you've selected this, it shows you the overview of which areas you can colonize. As you progress through the game, more opens up to you and you're even able to access trading or transfer routes. These allow you to send resources between the different sectors, which become a big part of the game once you start expanding, as areas like the Arctic have resources that the moon doesn't have and vice versa. When building in Anno 2205, you have to make sure that every building you build is accessible by road, because if it isn't, then it won't start production or work. When you build, it simply consists of you selecting the building you want and clicking where you want to put it. Hit the middle mouse button to rotate, and if you want to build multiple of that building, simply hold down the left mouse button and drag. When building roads, it can get a bit annoying sometimes, as when you try and do it in large amounts, it follows its on set routes. So if you want to try to make a more complex road or your own design, you want to have to do it bit by bit, which can take a while, but it isn't the end of the world.
On certain areas and sectors, you will find and see invisible line structures that indicate that certain buildings can be built there. For example, you can only build the desolation plants in the coastal building sites and the cobalt mines at the mountain building areas. You're limited with these types of building areas, so make sure you maximize your resources and prioritize the types of buildings you need. When you start advancing in the game, structures will start allowing you to improve them and maximizing their output. An example would be adding more fruit orchards to the plantation, meaning a plus 150% in productivity. If you add a drone hive to it, it would reduce the workforce needed to maintain it by 20%, meaning they could be used elsewhere. When clicking on structures, you will see all the information you need about it, and whether it is doing what it is meant to, or whether there is a problem. This is a very handy feature, because you don't have time to be traversing through a lot of menus to see if everything is working. Another cool feature is that if there is a problem with a building, little icons appear above them to indicate that there is something wrong. When in later game, building becomes harder as the areas you colonise have higher requirements.
When building in the Arctic, you can't build houses outside of the heat circle, or they won't work, so you have to start strategically placing buildings to get the best out of the sector and to maximise efficiency. Little side missions become available for you as you progress in the game. If you complete these, you'll earn credits and resources, shaking up the gameplay from time to time, which is really fun. You'll also get missions where you have to go and complete certain tasks with the fleet of boats that you have at your disposal. The missions have 3 separate difficulty settings which vary on the rewards and resources you get, as well as how hard the enemy is. The enemy are the Orbital Watch, who are like the terrorist group, which try and get in your way of production and advancement in technology. These missions have a somewhat strategic feel to them, with the whole click to move the ships and select what you want to target. You have an array of different abilities on the ship that aids in the fight, and you're also able to upgrade your ship when you've completed missions. Doing any of the missions in the game is fun and mixes up the gameplay. It's also rewarding and a quick way to get extra resources. The only negative we have with them is they can feel very repetitive and samey, and can get quite boring quite quickly. When jumping from sector to sector in the strategy map, it can get quite tedious. This is because the loading times for the sectors can take a while, which can pull you out of the game. You have to wait for a percentage bar to fill, and when it eventually does, you can click on the sector and you'll be taken to it. It's picky to bring up, but it was an issue, probably because it had to load everything in the sector, but sometimes even with new sectors it would just take as long to load.
Graphically, the game looks stunning. Running on our PC machine, we got the highest graphical setting, but not ultra. This doesn't bother us, as we felt that the array of different landscapes and buildings looked amazing. And when you have built your civilization and you can see people moving around and doing day-to-day things, it really makes a difference. The water in the game looks brilliant, and the different buildings and level of detail you get when you zoom into them is stunning and adds to the experience.
The soundtrack is really good too. The music doesn't feel boring and repetitive, and you can listen to it for hours while sinking your teeth into the game. There's also voice acting involved in Anno 2205. This is a nice little feature, as you don't have to find yourself having to read through tons of text. Instead, it's all narrated to you by the various people you meet while building metropolises. This allows the player to carry on building and doing stuff while also listening to what is being said. The negative though about this is that the characters will constantly keep nagging you to complete their tasks, which, when you're building something, it isn't really what you want to be listening to. Now you can mute them, but you might miss something very important. For people that know these games, they might be able to mute them as they know what they're probably doing.
Now it's time for the positives and negatives. Positives: hours of fun city building at your fingertips, get to colonise the moon, graphically the game looks gorgeous, and easy to pick up and play whether you have played a city builder game before or not. Negatives: the missions can feel samey and get boring quickly, the voice acting gets on your nerves, and loading times between sectors is tedious.
Anno 2205 was very enjoyable and has made us want to look more into the series. We love the whole futuristic feel to the game, and we love the level of detail that's gone into the cities and buildings when you've made them. Not only that, but you get to colonise the moon. We spent hours sinking our teeth into the C&NOnline corporation and overcoming the different tasks to progress in the game. There were some negatives, but the positives definitely outweighed them. We would strongly recommend the game to anyone, and definitely to fans of city building games. I'm sure Anno fans will pick it up as well, because in our eyes it's a perfect entry to the series. For these reasons, Anno 2205 gets a well-deserved CNN score of 4 out of 5.
Thanks for watching, guys. Feel free to leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear what you guys think of the game, and we would also answer any questions that you might have. Make sure to like and subscribe for more of our video content, and we'll see you in our next video. This is C&NOnline, signing off.
Let the next race to space begin. Shape the future of our kind. You can lead the way for us all.